What does it mean to be a welcoming space, and what does it mean to be an inclusive space? I really like that question. I think about that a lot. When I think about a welcoming space, I think about a space where I can walk in and have some immediate orientation to, am I safe here? And am I going to be able to figure out how I need to be here, whether that's my home meeting, whether that's somebody else's meeting or Quaker church. And an inclusive space, I think, is that to a greater sense.
So from my perspective as a transgender man, there is a difference between a welcoming and an inclusive congregation. So for me, a welcoming congregation is mostly just through verbal communication, saying, oh, we accept people that are LGBTQ, and you are welcome in our meeting. Whereas an inclusive meeting has not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk.
A welcoming space for me is one where we meet people where they are and bring them in to whatever is happening. An inclusive space recognizes the intrinsic worth of each of the members. We have to recognize the things that we are doing that create barriers to people bringing their whole selves.
So things that I do a lot of work with in New England and more broadly with friends is how do we recognize microaggressions in the moment, and how do we interrupt them in the moment? That if I walk in a meeting door and somebody says, welcome, can I give you some information about our meeting? That's really different than if I walk in the door and say, oh, are you a Quaker? Many people in the US will assume I'm a Quaker because I fit a lot of the demographic norms of what a Quaker looks like. I know for some of my friends of color, that's not their experience walking in the door, and that are you a Quaker can be an assumption of, I somehow think maybe you don't belong here, and be implied. And so how do we welcome people where we're orienting people to what a space is and what we're doing in a way that just conveys, I want you to feel welcome without me making any assumptions about who you are or who you aren't. And then the next layer of that to me is, what are all the things we do to make those spaces accessible? And so that is where we get the deeper work of inclusion. So can people physically access the building? Can they meet their physical and cognitive needs in the way that we're doing programming? And is there space to get whatever accommodations might be needed? Are we acting as if our young people are fully a part of our body, or these kids that are kind of there some of the time? Do we understand that parents of young children, that people who might be in a process of transition or coming out, that people who are grieving or carrying other intense needs might need different care than those of us who are not at one of those stages of life? Are we paying attention to the fact that national events are going to land differently in different ones of us based on the identities we carry? Are we recognizing that some of us might contribute money, some of us might contribute time, some of us might contribute prayer, and some of us might not be in a place to contribute anything, and that all of that is valued? And for each of us, that will probably change over our lifetime.
One of the practices our yearly meeting has over and over again is when we're considering joining a larger group or affiliating with a larger Quaker organization, a question that we always ask is it inclusive? And if it is not inclusive, if it is not a safe space for 100% of our community, then we don't join. A community is only as good as how far you're willing to go to defend it. Another thing about being inclusive is, what images do you have around your space? If you have pictures that you put out into the community, does that reflect an inclusive community? As an LGBTQ person, do I hear people like me honored on the platform? What voices do I hear honored? what people are up on the platform. Are they always straight people, or are they LGBTQ people? Who's filling your committees? Who's making decisions? Whose voices are heard and weighted?
And another way is to do education, either within the meeting or on your own, that you're willing to ask questions, you're willing to sit with your discomfort and say, what don't I know? What do I need to know? And understand that it's a journey and that it's okay where you're at, but that act of actually learning and growing and showing it makes a meeting inclusive.
These are all the things that I think about that make an inclusive space. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be really trying and really working. And we have to pause and say, are there voices we're not hearing? Are there people who have left us because they didn't feel welcome here? Are there things I am doing that are not welcoming to others? And how can you help me learn those? And how can I help you learn the places where you might have gaps? And how do we see those moments as acts of faithfulness?
Thanks for watching this QuakerSpeak video. We release new videos every other Thursday. We'd like to thank Earlham School of Religion for sponsoring this one. Earlham School of Religion prepares theologically diverse students for a pluralistic world. Rooted in the Quaker tradition of contemplation that inspires action, our curriculum unites spiritual formation, academic study, social engagement, and vital ministry. Together, ESR faculty and students engage in intense and thoughtful academic study while seeking a deeper connection with Spirit. We use the fruits of discernment, a value at the heart of Friends principles, to experiment with new, vital forms of ministry. Learn more at esr.earlham.edu. Thanks so much for watching, and have a happy Thursday.